My guest today built a successful coaching business by doing something most high achievers resist: slowing down. What's wild is that when she stopped chasing success and started embodying it, her income and impact exploded. But here's the twist: she teaches her clients to do less thinking and more feeling, and that shift changes everything. I'm going to ask her to unpack how this counterintuitive approach helps leaders create freedom without hustle. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life health transformational coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head on over to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step to building a business where your clients seek you out rather than you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with April Little, a soul care and embodiment coach who helps female leaders bridge the gap between what they know and what they live. She's the author of The Me First Paradox and co-creator of Quarterly Ever After, a coaching program that turns marriage into a business superpower. Welcome to the show, April. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so what's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
You know what? I think about this quite a bit, and I feel like the thing that I have learned and that I'm committed to right now is that as we raise our individual vibration, our individual um just consciousness, I guess, that we are raising the vibration of the world by doing that in our individual lives. And then, of course, it ripples out. And that is kind of the whole point. That just also goes right back to like the book that I just recently wrote and released. It's really about you being that first person, about you leading in whatever it is that you want. And so if we want the entire vibration of the world to rise, which would solve so many problems, then we start with ourselves. And so I think working on yourself in that aspect is the thing that I think makes the most impact first.
I agree with you so much. It's kind of like light your candle, and then when you light your candle, you turn around and you light everybody's candle next to you.
Right.
And they turn around and start lighting other candles. And we just
Exactly.
need to
There's this
get all
beautiful
these
ripple effect.
people out there lighting their candles so that the world can see what they're here to contribute. We've
Right.
lived so long in a hustle culture and move as fast as you can and just stay in your lane, and never mind that you're in the wrong lane altogether to begin with
Right.
most
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
times.
So true.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned that slowing down is what was kind of the key for you to actually move faster. What does that look like? And that's
So, what happened was a couple of years ago, and I'd been in the coaching world for a couple of years at that point, and I was really working hard at what I was doing. I was getting all of the education that I could, all the things, all the things that you should be doing, and all the things that were necessary. And I was probably working like 12 to 14-hour days a lot of times, and it felt like felt like I was spinning my wheels. Like I did not feel like I was making the kind of progress that I should have been making working 12, 14-hour days.
right.
And I had heard a couple times because again, I was in this phase of like tons of education. And so I was reading a lot of good books and listening to some good podcasts and different things. And one of the things that came up for me a couple times was the less that you actually work and the more time that you spend in like self-care, the more productive your work will become. And I was just like, this is the biggest load of crap. Like, how? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, but that doesn't make any sense. And even with like some knowledge of some quantum things and different things like that, I still was just like, I'm not so sure about that. But I love an experiment. Like, it's like my thing. I love research and I love experiments, and I'm usually the guinea pig. And so I thought, you know what, let me just go all in and like test this theory. And so you can't test a theory with like much good result if you're like sort of semi like a tiny little test. And so I thought I'm going all in. I'm going to go from doing like 45 minutes of self-care in the morning. I'm going to do the entire morning because at the time I have a son that goes to school still. He's still a teenager, but he doesn't go to school until noon. And so I thought I'm going to spend my entire morning until I have to leave to take this kid to school. I'm going to spend my whole morning in self-care. And then we'll see if this theory plays out, right? And so I did. I went all in. I was doing like long morning walks. I was meditating. I was in my sauna bag for, 45 minutes every single day. I was taking even more time with my skincare routine and just all these like really bougie, like really beautiful self-care time in the morning. And what I found was that for the other 4 to 6 hours that I would end up working in a day, I was probably accomplishing 3 times more in a day, a 4 to 6 hour day, than I was before when I was working a 12 to 14 hour day. Because a lot of what I was doing during those 12 to 14-hour days was keeping myself busy. Like I was telling myself that I was being productive, but really I was more busy than productive. And
Mhm.
so what I found was that the better care that I took of myself and the more quiet like my spirit was when I went into my work, the more creative I was, the more focused I was, the more intentional I was. And I got so much more done and with much more the product was just much more beautiful, if that makes sense.
It
Yeah.
does totally make sense, and I can see how that happens to a lot of people, especially when you're in the beginning stages where there's there's a learning curve for
For sure.
anything that you're getting into, and it's really
Yeah.
easy to let the 2 blend together. So you're learning and you're working and you're doing stuff
Yes.
and you're in your head, you're like, "Oh, all of this is work." But really
Right.
it's 2 separate things, but because it all takes place on our computer, we just, like, conflate it all together, and then we get overloaded, so then we're over in our emails or doom scrolling or whatever it is that we like to
Yeah.
do. It's just, like because our brains just get, like, so, tied up and
It
tangled up, and, um,
yes.
so I can see where, like, when you're really focused, and I think Tim Ferriss talks about it in the 4-Hour Workday, um, book that he wrote. It's just like when you're working, you need to accomplish specific things, not sitting down to your computer and deciding where am I gonna start and, "Oh, this looks fun," and then you're off learning something because that's not
Yeah.
working. That's
Yeah.
learning something.
Yeah, and I was in a place of being, like, kind of over consuming information as well, and so that did slow me down a lot, in that too, so that I could really sort of assess what was right and what was real for me, over just constantly consuming, like, I'm sure you've done this to the point where you're starting to consume so much that some of it's starting to contradict itself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just and I was really, I think, in a bit of a state of overwhelm in a way, but didn't really fully realize that until I was able to completely slow down. And it's that slowing down that gives you the time to actually hear your own mind, you know what I mean? And to also start to listen a little bit better to your own intuition and know which direction or which things are right for you.
And if you have a limited amount of time that you're going to sit down and work, then you know that you have to complete the tasks that need to be done, and they're the important money producing things rather
Right.
than the oh, this is fun sort of stuff
Just the
that
minutia. Yeah.
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 So many coaches struggle to practice what they preach. When life gets messy, how do you personally lead yourself first when things don't go as planned?
How? That's a really interesting question. I think that then And now I feel like the how would be hard for me to explain now because now that is who I am. I think ultimately what that is for me and what I teach is that it's something that you have to become. And so that's the how, I guess. But that's a whole entire process, right? You need to actually become those things that you want to teach because otherwise it's always coming from your head and it's always there's always sort of this like mind trick going on where you're teaching it, it's coming out of your mouth, but at the same time you're questioning yourself on whether that's something that you truly believe because you know you're not living it, you know. And it gets really, it's like a total weird mind game that happens, and that's where things like imposter syndrome come in and live in your head and all this. And so it's really about spending the time doing the work to become what it is that you teach, who what it is that you lead in, to become that leader for yourself, in yourself. And then it's so much easier and it comes flowing right out of you. And it's obvious to other people. They can feel it. You know it. Imposter syndrome is nowhere to be seen. You know, these things. And so it's really about creating the habits and putting those things in place that will help you to actually become what it is that you're teaching or that you're leading in.
I love that. And your book is tell us about your book and how people because I know that there's more than just like just go read her book. It's immerse yourself in the book and
Yeah,
there's
this is not
stuff
a
that
book
goes
to
with
read.
it.
Definitely. Yeah, so I've actually had a couple of people just recently tell me, that my book is hard, and I'm like, "That's great news." Like, what I know when people say that to me is that they're doing the work within it and not just reading it. Because if you just read it, it's great, it's whatever, you know, it's information. Honestly, that's not it's not like rocket science. There's nothing new here. It's just the way I see it, right, from my point of view. The beautiful thing within the book really is the work that you can do that goes along with the things. And it's the transformation that you can actually create within your own life. And so when I hear that, it's like the best thing that I could hear is like, oh, your book is really, really hard, or I'm having a really hard time with your book. And I'm like, oh, this is beautiful, you know, um, because that means they're doing the work. But yeah, so it is. It's definitely it's a book with some really great information in it. It's a book that is it really encompasses my life theories and the things that I've learned over the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years since I've been doing my own deep work. And just, you know, a lot of beliefs and things that I have and things that I've learned about life and some, you know, universal truths as well, which are a lot of things that I live by at this point. But it is also in every single chapter has work. And so if you want change in your life, if you want to change yourself, if you want to get closer to yourself, if you want to come home to yourself, the real you, whoever that is, discover her. This is a book that will allow you to start yourself down that path. And yeah, it's been the feedback that I get on it is just it really is so because this is my literally this is what I tell people. This is my love letter to womankind. Like this is if I could tell all women everywhere anything, this is what I would tell you. Because I want us all to be able to rise into our own power and our potential. I want women to be able to be themselves and to have sovereignty and so many other things and self-love and you know the things that make life truly truly beautiful. And all of that is kind of in here, and the ability to get from point A to point B as much as possible. I mean, obviously, it's for me, this is another thing. Like for me, the work never stops. The work will never stop. I will always be working on myself. I will always be trying to reach another level. And I think once you get into the work, that is how it gets. But this is like the intro. So this will get you, this will set your feet firmly on that path if that's something that you're interested in.
So I know that you and your husband co-coach entrepreneurial couples, and you're talking
We do.
about, this step into your sovereignty, which to a lot of people is like, you got to be by yourself. You're the only person that
Right.
matters. And that's not really true but
Not all.
it can be heard that way. So, what are the biggest patterns you see when couples build a business together? How it affects the business, how it affects their marriage, and how do you help them turn that partnership into a superpower?
So, a tiny little backstory or moment, just so everybody knows, my husband and I, we've been married for 31 years. We married, I wasn't even 20 years old yet when we got married. I was about a month away from my 20th birthday. So I've grown up with him, like we've raised each other in large part. And, you know, I would still say very, very much that I'm a very sovereign individual. I would say he is also a very sovereign individual. Um, you don't need to be alone to be sovereign. Some people find it much easier to learn that alone, and that's a real thing too. But it's not a requirement. Sovereignty just means you are your own person. It doesn't mean you are alone. So you can be sovereign in any kind of relationship. You can be sovereign with a group of very, very tight girlfriends, or in a loving marital relationship, or in any other relationship, or whatever. That's not really what it's about. Sovereignty, it's along with everything else, I believe, is really about you inside of yourself, like what's going on in you, right? It doesn't have much to do with what's going on outside of you. But yes, what we've learned coaching couples in business together. So what we do is we coach couples that at least one of the members of the couple are business owners, usually small business owners. And sometimes they're in business together. Sometimes they're in two separate businesses. And sometimes one of them is in business and one of them is running the home or is in the corporate world or whatever else. And so what we found a lot of times is that one of those things, either the relationship, but usually the business, will take precedence over the other thing. And then there's this like constant battle about whether, you know, whether you're putting too much into the business and then you're sort of ignoring the relationship, or the relationship is suffering because there's so much going on with the business, or sometimes vice versa. Sometimes they do start looking at their relationship a lot more, usually after they've had some kind of trouble, and then the business can start to suffer. Well, we bring those two things together because they do not have to be mutually exclusive. And if you're trying to build a beautiful life together, they can't be mutually exclusive. So they must learn to harmonize, and they must learn to become each other's like greatest asset. So we try and teach couples their relationship is actually their greatest business asset, and their business can be a really great asset to the relationship and to the life that they're trying to build. But it has to be done in a way that honors both, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense to me. And I love the way you describe sovereignty. I I've heard over the years that, you're two halves when you get married, but that you really need to be whole on your own. So you're not like
Yes.
leaning on that other person because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yes. Right. Yeah. The absolute best relationships consist of two whole people, like not two halves of people trying to make a whole. Like that sounds
Right.
horrible.
Yeah, I know. It's just like advice that's been passed around for so many years. It's just
It's
like
true. It's an old,
that's
yeah,
just like that's the dumbest thing I ever heard
it is pretty dumb. Yeah.
in the whole
There's so many
state.
things that life and like I blame Hollywood a lot because the way that relationship, I always tell people it's one of the most weird things to really watch when you kind of wake up to things, is like like a Hollywood love story, like a movie, is where like, oh, how adorable someone is when they're like broken. Like that's not cute. That's not adorable. And like to come in or to have someone go into a situation where they're like, oh, they're so adorable and broken, I will fix them. Like that is just, I mean, you talk about a recipe for disaster. And that's what we're taught. Like that's what movies teach us. Like that's what we should be looking for. And the more broken that we are, the more adorable we are. It's no wonder we have people who do not want to fix themselves, or do not know how, you know what I mean, or how to go about doing that, because that's that's cute and lovable, and someone will come and rescue us. And on the other
Yes.
side, like, you could go in and be the rescuer, and how amazing and heroic and beautiful that is. It's not. That's terrible. And it will break. Like, that's a terrible situation, you know?
I've seen relationships like
Real
that, and
life. Yeah,
it's just like it's painful.
it is.
It's like if that person dies or something happens, and stuff happens in life. If
All the
you
time, yeah.
cannot have your own identity, and that's really what we're talking about,
Yeah.
is knowing who you are as an individual and what you're here to do. And that other person, I'm even at the point where marriage is like, you can get married if you want. You can just be partners with people if you want. You should just enjoy each other's company, and you can build stuff together. But it doesn't have to be your whole life. You can have
Right.
interests outside of each other, and you can come
Yeah.
together and have conversations, and it's interesting. But you don't have to be joined at the hip and or
Yeah.
subservient or
No,
all.
that's really actually really dangerous. I mean, that's where we talk about codependence, and that when someone else becomes your entire world,
Yeah.
again, that's not cute. Like, I don't know who has taught us that, but it's been taught over and over again and perpetuated. That's not cute and it's not healthy. Like, a person should not be your life. Your children should not be your life. I still see that all the time. And I know women think that that's like really, that it sounds really, really sweet when you say something like, this child is my entire life. I would never say that about my children, and I would never put that on my children. They are not my entire life. I adore my children. I have four of them. And I have two grandchildren, and I adore them. But I will not tell them that they're my life. They're not my life. And I would never put that kind of pressure on another human being. Like, it's not healthy. That's not healthy.
Just not fair either.
It's not.
And kids, they're gonna grow up, they're gonna do stuff, they're gonna have adventures in their lives, and I think the internet has made it. I have 5 kids and 9, almost 9 grandkids now.
Wow.
So it's kinda, I get what you're saying, because it's so easy to, when they're little and they're cute and stuff, to want them to be everything, because you invest so much in them. But they're going to grow up and they're going to turn 40. And when they're 40, they
Girls are going to
need to
turn
have,
20. Ours all went crazy when they turned about 18 years old, which I feel like what happens is if you tell a child that they are your whole life, then they're going to spend a lot of time making choices that they think you would want them to make and
yeah,
not making their own choices. And that is a problem. Like, that creates that's the exact opposite of sovereignty. So if you want your children to be sovereign, and you do, whether you think you do or not, then you can't tell them things like you're my entire world. Because as soon as they think that they're going to damage your world somehow, they're going to make a decision that's not theirs. And that is totally unfair. You're right. It's very unfair.
yeah. So this is the piece I wanted to circle back to. The part about doing less thinking and more feeling. How does that actually look in day-to-day life or business? And what shifts when somebody finally stops performing success and just starts embodying it?
Yes. Okay. So that is a great, great question. I think that I don't want people to come off with the idea that I don't do a lot of thinking, because I definitely do. And I love, like I said before, I love information. Like, I love information. I'll get as much information as I can. But one of the things that I have definitely, definitely learned kind of the hard way is that there is a point that you get to where you have enough information, and it's time to start relying on your intuition. And your intuition is what tells you the truth for yourself, right? I was just in a conversation with a bunch of women earlier today about this topic, that there is a truth in each of us, for each of us, that has to do with our own experiences and the experiences that we are yet to have, and who we are meant to be, and all these different things. And the only way to know those things is to tap into your own intuition, because that's not out there. I don't care what AI you have. I don't care what you can Google. I don't care what so and so is going to tell you, or what somebody's wisdom is, or whatever else. The wisdom for your personal life is only found within yourself. And so, sure, there are lots and lots of amazing, wonderful things to learn out there. But if you have curiosity about yourself and your own power and your own potential and your own purpose, those answers are within yourself. And you have to learn to do less thinking, like the type of thinking that we think of, like the intellectual type of thinking, and do more listening to that inner thread of divinity that is in you, which is what I think of as intuition. So yes, the more feeling, the more listening to that voice, the more listening to your body, to what your body's trying to tell you, the signals that you're getting in different situations, or when you learn about something, or when you hear about something. Your body, all your senses are designed to help you learn truth, and to understand it when you hear it. And so, but most of us don't spend hardly any time at all listening to our bodies. We just completely ignore them. Um, and so all those things are just so, so important. And then can you repeat that part about the embodying?
What shifts when somebody finally stops performing for success and just starts embodying success?
Uh, you know what shifts? Everything. Like everything shifts. This is something that I actually had like almost like a visceral, literally a visceral kind of the feeling of shifting, especially when I learned about my own human design. Which, if you don't know that your own human design, that's something that you should definitely look into, I think. Um, Blew my mind. It also made me understand myself that much more. And that ability to embody who you, again, what you are wanting to teach, what you are leading in, that you will become a magnet. You will call in the clients that are meant for you. They will start coming to you. You can just drop all the massive marketing and the going out there and telling people how great you are and all that stuff. You won't need to say any of that. That is going to be felt. It's such an interesting thing. But like when I tell you that it was obvious, almost like the day that I felt this thing happen. And again, I've been working on myself for a long time, and I've been working on embodying different parts of, the things that I personally want to teach for a long time. So it's not like this, just not like a switch went off, but like there was a day when it literally, I felt like, oh, okay, yes, what the biggest switch for me was the marketing thing, because that was the thing that I had the most trouble with. I couldn't figure out how to effectively market what it was that I did and who it was that I was, because I was trying to do it in all the ways that I was being taught, in all these different ways, in the quote best practices, right? And all these different things. Come to find out, none of those practices are my best practices, right? Those are other people's best practices. So then again, related to my human design, when I found out what my human design was, then it all made sense why these other things didn't work for me, and why, if I would just kind of sit back and be who I was, very, openly and honestly, but just be, then it would be very, very easy for the right people to find me. And that is what I have found, like almost instantaneously, is that people are starting to come to me. I don't have to go out and, beat the bushes, or do things that are outside of my character or outside of my own integrity at all. I just get to be me, and things happen as they should. And I think that that's exactly what happens when you become really truly aligned, and you really are being fully in integrity, and in authenticity. The things that are for you will just actually come to you like a magnet. It's pretty crazy.
It is amazing how that happens, and there is a shift that just it's 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 walking uphill for a long time, but
Yeah,
once you get there, it's like, "Oh, now
it's a
you're walking
ride.
down the hill, and
Yeah,
it's a
it
lot
it
easier."
is. Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So how can people find you, and how can they find your book?
Such a great question. My book is available on Amazon, and there will also be a link at the Me First Paradox, which is the name of the book, the mefirstparadox.com. And then here, I'll show it to you too because I have it. I just happen to have it right here, but
Oh,
this is the
great.
book. And then to contact me right now, the best way is just to get on my Facebook, my personal Facebook page, and DM me, and we'll start a conversation. I do vet my clients just as much as I want them to vet me. So I don't work with just anyone. And that is, again, one of those things that's just in, integrity for me. But yeah, the best way right now, we're working on our website. So the best way right now to contact me is just to get on my Facebook page, and it's just April Little, just like my name. And you can just DM me and we'll start a conversation.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Absolutely.
And to learn more about April and to get her a copy of the Me First Paradox, you can find that on Amazon, and I will put the direct link below, but you can also find it on the mefirstparadox.com, and be sure to reach out to April Little on Facebook to start a conversation with her. Thanks
Yeah,
for tuning in today. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.